This is Suit Up Sports.
Suit Up Sports.
Where opinions are as sharp as a tailored suit. No fluff, no gimmicks, just unfiltered, hard-hitting takes on sports and a whole lot more. It's time to suit up. Now here's your host, DJ the Suit Stout.
Today's Suit Up Sports is brought to you by Neogenics, Charlotte's #1 when it comes to stem cells and regenerative therapy. I'm not saying that because that's what I'm supposed to say. I'm saying that because I've lived it. So is Frank. Nico over at Neogenics is taking care of us. I've had stem cells in my arm. I've had it in my knee. I've had it in my shoulder. You've had it in your back.
Buddy, you ain't lying when you're talking about Neogenics as a life support for us as older guys. Weekend warriors.
Yep.
If you're looking to, kind of replenish your body and get that 30-something filled back, Neogenics is the place for you. I know a lot of Panther players use it. I used it, got my lower back done.
Yep.
And the best thing about them, buddy, is that they will tell you exactly what it is that you need to do. And they might not be able to help you.
And if they can't treat you, they won't treat you.
That's right.
Yeah. And it's any nagging joint pain, shoulder, neck, back, knees, any of those things, they'll treat it. They do stem cells. They do PRP. And like Frank said, they do a lot of athletes from Thomas Davis to Harold Varner Jr. to Matt Doherty. And I can go to Tony Womack, baseball all-star. It works, and they're honest. Like Frank said, some of their competition they'll treat you just to take the money, whether they know it's going to work or not work. These guys are only going to work with you if they know they can help you. 704-727-6551. That's 704-727-6551 or neogenicstemcells.com. You see it on the bottom scroll of our show, neogenicstemcells.com. Tell them DJ and Frank sent you.
Check them out, bud.
Thank you. Welcome to Suit Up Sports. I'm DJ the Suit Stout, along with my good buddy Mark Yarbro. Mark, how you doing?
DJ, I'm good. Thank you for having me back. I guess I didn't suck too bad looking last time.
I'm glad you did. Frank is in yet another golf tournament. So
shocking.
Yeah.
Some things never change.
No, and I guess I'm jealous because when you're actually good at golf, people ask you to play.
They want you to come play, right?
When I play, it's just because they know that I'll bring good music.
They need a fourth.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just putt. Hopefully I hit a couple to do my job. But Frank's playing again today, and looks like the rain's holding off enough to where he'll be able to get it in. But thank you for coming in and joining us. Brentson Buckner is going to join us later in the show. Our good buddy Buck, who everybody knows, great Panther, Steeler, 49er, coach in the NFL. This is his first year really not coaching. He's wanting to get into college coaching, which we talked about last time, but we'll talk to him in a little bit. Before we get into the Panthers and all the preseason games that we saw this weekend, I wanted to ask you, were you able to watch the golf tournament yesterday?
I did. The FedEx Cup thing, say what you want about it, but I am interested. So yeah, I was engaged into that yesterday.
I was too. I'm in a golf pool, and I actually had a little bit of money on Justin Rose and a little bit of money on Scheffler, and then my son Connor had money on Spawn and Rose. So
he was in good shape yesterday.
He was in great shape. So I knew he was going to win either way. But I was with a couple buddies at a bar watching it, and it's not often that you get that kind of drama during this time of year.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it was like watching a major almost.
Well, and I think what added to it, and I was thinking about this yesterday, it almost had a Ryder Cup feel because you had in the playoff, you had Justin Rose, obviously, who's going to be on the European team.
Yep.
And you had JJ Spawn, who you would think is going to be on the American team.
Yep.
So it had a little bit of a Ryder Cup feel to it. So that I think that added to it.
It sure did. And, the one thing that I don't understand, and the guys that I was watching it with are all good golfers, so they know more about it than I do. But I get doing the playoff hole in 18.
Yeah.
But to me, you got to change it up. And I know on the third playoff hole, they changed the
whole location.
Yeah. But like, if they wouldn't have done that, first of all, that thing could have went all night.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. And I know the fans were all around, and there's a lot of stuff to it. But I'll tell you what, man, when Spawn hit that long birdie putt, you knew he was going to make it because he barely missed the same putt earlier. He is a great long distance putter. And then when he on the third,
he saw that at the U.S. Open, the putt to win it.
Exactly. I mean, he is a great putter from distance. I mean, he's a good putter overall, but I had a feeling he was going to miss that shorter one. I don't know why. And you could see it, when you pull the ball like that, it's nerves.
Yeah.
And that guy's been so tough this year to beat. And you're right. I mean, if he's not on the Ryder Cup team, I don't know who.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where he is in the point. I know the top 6 are guaranteed spot. I want to say he's in the top 6, so I think he's basically a lock.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. Rose is one of those guys you forget how good he is because he's not great every week he plays, but man, when he's on, he can beat anybody. Yeah, and he was on this week in Memphis.
He was. I mean, he's always consistent, and in the majors, he always seems to be there. And I think the reason we maybe don't give him as much attention and credit as he deserves because it feels like he's been playing forever.
Yes.
I mean, remember even when he was a young kid in the first British Open he played in, and it just seems like he's been around forever. But man, he just sticks around and is gritty. And you're right, man. It got me kind of pumped up with the Ryder Cup. Matter of fact, I don't know when the United States are going to announce who our team is. Like, I don't know if they wait till after the FedEx.
I know that the top 6 are announced, are locked. So you can go by, I think after this week in Baltimore, when the next tournament is, we'll know next Monday who the top 6 are locked in. And then I think it's maybe a week after that, Keegan Bradley will make his 6 captain's picks.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting because, you got that whole live tour thing and, DeChambeau's already been told he's on there, obviously. Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see if he takes anybody else off of the live tour. And
I know you're not, as Americans, we're not supposed to feel bad for maybe a European, but I continue to feel bad for Tommy Fleetwood.
Man.
He seems like a really good dude.
Yeah.
And believe me, I'm going to be rooting against him come September at Bethpage in the Ryder Cup. But you just want to see him break through, and he's been so close. And he had that one, I think it was in Hartford where he had it, and then Keegan came back and beat him.
Yeah.
And then yesterday he was right there, and again, just something always stops him from getting over the hump in these tournaments.
Well, the thing is, he's going to have to answer that question every tournament until he gets one.
Right.
And you do get the feeling that once he does get one, he might go on a run. We see that in all sports that when an athlete finally gets over the hump,
right.
A lot of times they go, we see it in baseball with a pitcher who may struggle, but once they kind of get a groove, basketball, same thing. So I think once he gets one, he's gonna be dangerous.
My fear is he's gonna find it in the Ryder Cup. He's gonna be one of those guys like Ian Poulter used to be, where he ends up makes everything. I remember Sergio used to do this all the time. What would really tick me off. He wouldn't make anything all year, and then he'd get the Ryder Cup, and he wouldn't miss.
Yep,
he wouldn't miss anything.
You're right, man. And I got to believe that Fleetwood is going to be hearing it if he's on the Ryder Cup team, which I'm not sure if he is or not, but if he is, which I think he probably will be.
I would think so.
You got to think that those fans in Bethpage are going to be all over him, man. He's going to be number one target.
Yeah, they're going to be on him. They're going to be on Rory.
Yep.
And I don't think it's going to bother Rory because Rory's used to it.
Yep.
They're not going to phase him. But, you're right. They will be the golf. They're knowledgeable golf fans, and they know Fleetwood's story. So, he's going to hear about it.
They're going to be all over him. So let's get to the Panthers. Panthers had their first preseason game Friday night against the Cleveland Browns. I was excited not only to see the Panthers, but we talked about it last week about Shedeur getting the start. I've been on record since day one thinking that the kid's going to be a good quarterback. I don't like some of the antics. I don't like the way he treated these the preseason or the pre-draft meetings, and a lot of
the way he came into the stadium.
I did not like that either.
Entourage.
I didn't, and I actually have got mixed emotions about it. Number one, I don't like it because when you're a rookie,
what have you done?
Exactly. You're a 5th round draft choice. And you walk in there like you're Tom Brady, or like you're getting ready to fight in the UFC, and or the guy that now I guess is going to be at NC State. What's the guy that
that carries the boom box,
and all that. So I don't like that because I just think it probably sends the wrong message to his teammates. But I tell you what, the teammates don't seem to be bothered by it. And I think what they see in practice, maybe they realize that this dude can play, and maybe they do realize that he's going to be the future quarterback. And all the teammates, the quotes I read afterwards, even from the Panther players, were all positive. And today watching some of the shows and listening to some shows, it's been a mixed bag. You hear some people go, oh, well, he wasn't playing against the good starters, or he wasn't this or that. But regardless, you can only play with who they put you out there with and against who you're playing against. And those 2 touchdown throws were dimes.
Oh yeah, they were darts. And I heard somebody say this last week about, what are you looking for when it comes to rookies in the preseason? And I think I wish I could remember who was. I think it was Drew Brees. He was like, you want them to look like they belong out there. Mm-hmm. That nothing's too big. And look, Shedeur is not going to be fazed by much of anything. He had so much spotlight on him in the last couple of years. He's not going to let that bother him. And he did. He looked like he belonged. Now, is he going to start this season? I would still lean Joe Flacco is probably going to start the season.
Me too.
But I think what he has done, at least in one game, it's one preseason game, so everybody slow your roll on that. But at least I think he's shown like they may have another option.
Yeah.
I think if you're Kevin Stefanski, if he continues to play well, I think you can at least think, all right, Flacco is going to be my guy. But I at least feel like if I want to make a change or we need to make a change, maybe Shedeur right now. And remember this, the only reason he was really playing the other night was the injuries to Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel. So he took advantage of it. That's what you want. You don't want to see your teammates injured, but you get an opportunity to take advantage of it. And 100%. I thought he handled himself pretty well.
I agree.
All things considered, for a first preseason game, I walked away going, all right, this guy's not gonna kill you out there.
No, and listen, he's putting Cleveland in a tough position because you can't put him on the practice squad. He'll get picked up immediately.
Oh yeah.
So now they're gonna have to trade Pickett because you also can't cut Gabriel when you take him in the second round. So it was interesting, but I thought he played well. Panthers, on the other hand, and we'll start. You brought up rookies. Tat McMillan. Great over-the-shoulder catch on a beautiful thrown ball by Bryce. He ended up with 2 catches for 43 yards. He did have a couple drops, including one in the end zone, which was a perfect pass from Bryce. But I think that was just the speed of the game, maybe, and him understanding that he's got to speed everything up a little bit.
And you saw him when he dropped it. I mean, he immediately pointed to himself like, that's on me.
Yep.
There was nothing wrong. As you said, that was a great throw for Bryce.
Yep.
He just dropped it.
Yeah, Bryce finished 4 for 6 for 55 yards and a touchdown. The first drive was not good.
It was ugly.
It was very ugly. And then, but it was good to see them come out on that second drive and go down and get a touchdown. Bryce looked good. The rest of the offense, Xavier Legette, the fight gets kicked out. And, people are giving him crap about that. You know me and my attitude when it comes to stuff like that. If it was a regular season game, obviously I would have a problem with it.
Yeah.
But you got to control your emotions more than that. But, everyone's building Xavier Legette up as a big, physical, tough receiver. And evidently the dude that he got into the fight with in practice against the Browns a couple days before that was talking trash. Chuba Hubbard had a nice run. The guy picked the ball up and threw it at Chuba. So there was already some bad blood there. And I think Xavier probably just let that moment get to him. But I don't mind that at all because I think it sends a message that he ain't, it's not going to be an easy day when you're guarding him. And hopefully he takes us into the next game and hopefully he's also fixed his drop problem. But I have no problem with it. I think he's got to build a brand for himself. And if everyone's going to say he's a big, tough, physical receiver, well, then let's get tough and physical.
If you're going to do that, what he did, do it in a preseason game. Because 100%. Like you said, if that's a regular season game, it is magnified times 1,000.
Yep.
And I know Dave Canales wasn't happy about it after the game.
Yep.
But he'd be a lot more angry about it if this was week 1 down in Jacksonville and he got himself kicked out in the first quarter.
No doubt. And I'll tell you what, the other thing that he has to be careful about is the dude that comes in to play for him, Coker, just makes plays.
Yeah.
I mean, last year as an undrafted rookie, had a great year for the Panthers and in FanFest 2 touchdowns. And then he had he had 2 catches for only 17 yards, but he had a touchdown. And then he had that beautiful
one hand and it got called back for a penalty.
Exactly. And that would have been 30, 40 yard reception.
No, he's a guy that, shined last year. And I think a lot of people coming into this season expected a lot of good things. And he did not disappoint. And, you figure Legette's not in any danger of anything because he's gonna be out there. But it's nice to see Coker make some plays out there Friday night.
What's nice is as a Panther fan, especially the last few years, you watch training camp and there's always a couple of these receivers that you never heard of that everyone says, they're flashing and they're flashing, and then you never hear from them again. Mm-hmm. They've got a receiver room now that is pretty deep. it arguably might be the deepest spot they've got on the roster. I mean, you looked at Tet, Coker, Horn, Leggett, Renfro didn't play. Thielen was in for a minute and had one catch, but they're going to have some decisions to make. Jimmy Horn Jr., 4 catches, 15 yards, almost broke one, but you can just see the speed this kid has. And Canales is going to have some tough decisions, whether they keep 7 receivers or not.
And we talked about this, I think, last week when I was on with you. Hunter Renfro, you would think he would make the team, but man, that hamstring injury, and it starts coming down to numbers. And you mentioned Jimmy Horn. Jimmy Horn plays special teams.
Yeah.
Hunter Renfro does it. So that's and you saw Jimmy Horn take over the punt returning duties after the botched of attempt by Etienne in there. So that's a check mark that's going to help Jimmy Horn is not only can he play receiver, he can be your punt returner.
Well, Renfro's back in pads practicing today, so that's a good sign. And Horn is kind of the same situation as we talked about Shedeur. You put him on the practice squad, he's going to be gone.
Right.
I mean, he's shown so much through camp so far that I can't imagine that somebody doesn't take a shot on him if he goes to the practice squad. So I don't think they'll even open him up to that.
Yeah, and a guy like David Moore, who I know is a Canales guy, but you feel like he could be a guy that could be the odd man out here. But we'll see. I know Canales is a loyal dude to a certain extent, but that's going to be it. There's not a ton of battles, I think, on this team, but that's a position you mentioned. It's deep, but somebody is going to be the odd man out. Probably.
Well, it also might be a position. We saw the Eagles and the Raiders make a trade last week during the preseason. It might be a position where they could trade a David Moore, or I've been reading a lot of rumors about Thielen going back to Minnesota because Addison's out for 4 games or whatever.
Yeah.
And when you look at depth on this team, and we'll dive deeper into this, but defensively, we got whooped, and there were some shining, some bright. Bobby Brown Jr. looked really good. Scorton, the rookie
Corey
defensive
Thornton,
end,
who was filling in for JC, who had the car accident last week and he didn't play Friday night. I thought he's great. Had a good camp.
Yep.
I thought he had a good game Friday night.
Yeah, he's got good size and had the great tackle where he basically suplexed the receiver. I started doing some research on him because he's kind of the guy that's getting all the out of nowhere talk this year.
Yep.
Every practice you're hearing him make a play, and then he did the same thing. He also had a special teams tackle. So I went to go research why did he not get drafted, because the guy that played corner along with him was drafted, I think, in the 4th or 5th round. He ran a 4.6, and that's got to be why, because he's got great size, and I'm sure that 40 speed is what caused him not to be drafted. But good job by the Panthers scouting department, because right now we're talking about depth. There's 2 areas that really worry me on this Panther team when it comes to depth, and that's cornerback and that's linebacker.
Yes. And
both of those looked shaky this weekend. Bartholomew gave up a couple big plays and had a big penalty. You mentioned JC Horn didn't play. There's very little depth. Wade played, will be at slot. I have no doubt he'll be their slot guy, but behind them, there's really not much. So to have Corey Thornton come out and play well, hopefully he continues it, and maybe they find a diamond in the rough. Middle linebacker, however, that's scary because, Canales made a comment after the game. I don't know if you heard it, where he said that there's certain guys that shine in practice and they don't show up in the game, and there's certain guys that don't really do much in practice and they shine in the game. Well, I wondered who he was talking about, and part of me wonders if he's talking about Wallace, because 3rd round pick last year, showed some signs here and there. Supposedly he's had a pretty good camp, but he was one of the worst graded players of the game. And then Roseboom, the guy that played so good for Denver last year, and again, I know he's a veteran, so he didn't get as many snaps, but they're going to have to do something at middle linebacker, and I'm sure they're watching the waiver wire, and they're going to be talking to other teams. I actually researched some teams today to see who had a lot of depth at middle linebacker, and it's interesting. It seems like when we were watching football growing up, every team, middle linebacker, you always felt like you could just throw anybody in there. Yeah. Now it's not like that, and Philadelphia Eagles have a lot of depth at middle linebacker.
I'm sure they'll trade Zach Bond if you ask.
I wish. We'll take it. We'll take him right now. But but they've even got Jeremiah Trotter, the kid they drafted last year out of Clemson, and he's, I think, their 4th guy right now, and they say he's having a great camp. So they're going to have to look at teams like that. The Steelers have some depth at middle linebacker. We've had trades with both those teams. So and we know Roseman is all about making some deals. They just lost their all-pro
guard last night. Yeah,
last night. So maybe there. I don't know what kind of depth we have there. We didn't seem to have much the other night.
No, and linebacker was a question mark, in the offseason, and then it certainly didn't help when Josie Jewell had the concussion issues, and they basically had to release him. So yeah, I'm with you. That's we always talk about the pass rush, and you hope that gets better, but those two areas you mentioned, linebacker depth and secondary depth, particularly at corner, those are big question marks. But a guy like Corey Thornton, who has played well in camp, had a good game the other night. Maybe he could be an answer there.
Yeah, and last year, what was it? The week before the regular season started, Dan Morgan traded a linebacker that we drafted in the 7th round for Michael Jackson from Seattle, who comes in and had a great year, earned a new contract. So I'm sure Morgan is looking at every single team and trying to figure out who may be out there. The other thing is the special teams looked awful.
Yes,
and on both sides, they didn't cover well. You mentioned the Etienne fumble, which everyone says that Nick Scott was, and even Canales said that was more Nick Scott getting too close to Etienne. But still, you got to catch the ball. And special teams look bad. And so when you're talking about depth pieces, a lot of those guys are going to be guys that play special teams. And we lost a lot of our great special team play. Sam Franklin and some of these guys who we could count on are gone. So he's got to rebuild that special teams. And after one game, it didn't look too good.
No, and when you're a team like the Panthers, who, you're trying to build something here, your margin of error is not big enough where you can afford to have nights like you saw. I know it's a preseason game, but those mistakes that you made the other night, and they did lose, but that they help you lose when you make those types of same mistakes in a regular season game. And that was an area that Tracy Smith and company were like, that's not acceptable.
No, exactly. They'll be working on that this week, I'm sure. I read an article this morning, ESPN, Louis Reddick from ESPN, who I like. I think he does a really good job. They released their power rankings going into the season, and they had the Panthers ranked, I believe, 29th or 30th. Falcons were one before them, and then behind them were the Saints, and I forget the other team. But reading that, we want to be optimistic, right? So we see a lot of these young guys. They did mention McMillan and how they think he's going to really help Bryce. And if we get the same Bryce that we ended the year with, they think offensively we're going to be good. Their questions are on defense, like all of us. But they had to take one shot in the dark, and they thought that Coker could lead this team in receiving, which I thought was really interesting because listen, if he gets the playing time, he's gonna play well, and he has. Every time he's been in there, he plays well. So again, I think they've got great depth at receiver. I think the offense is gonna be fine. It'll be interesting to see what they do against the Texans this week because we have the joint practice with them, and the Texans are really, really good, especially on defense. So I hope our first team offense shows something against the Texans early in that game to give us something to feel good about, because I'm not sure they'll play him at all against Pittsburgh in the third preseason.
Yeah, you wouldn't think so. But I do like, and I mentioned it last week, I do like the fact that Canales has changed it up this year, and he is playing the starters a little bit, even though it was only for a handful, because after that first drive, you're like, well, I sure hope this is not it for the starters on offense, because that was an ugly first drive. The other thing that we probably should mention, which was pretty big news that came out after the game, was about Damian Lewis, the fact that he's week to week with a shoulder injury, and that's something you got to keep an eye on, because that first drive, particularly, that line got pushed around a little bit. And remember, Browns didn't have Myles Garrett out there the other night; he didn't play, so that's something to keep an eye on. You hope by week one he's ready to go, but that's something to keep an eye on, because him and Robert Hunt were a big factor on why when Bryce came back last year, he was able to play a lot better. Was that offensive line gave him pretty good protection.
Yeah, and one thing I will say about the Panther game in particular, or in general, was that the guard that started, and I forget his name, Richardson. I forget his name. I think he was on the practice squad last year. If that was a regular season game, that probably would have been Mays or Christensen playing there. So I think
Brady got beat one time the other night too.
He did.
So.
He sure did. So, but I think that our backup at that spot wouldn't be that kid. And Zavala, who was having evidently a great camp, is hurt. So they're hoping that he gets back to create some depth there. But and then even on offense, Andy Dalton looked awful. I mean, he got sacked by a ghost. I mean, that was one of the damnedest things I've ever seen. I mean, I didn't know if he at first I thought maybe he was just the ball slipped and he just went down, but then I realized he just got toe picked like he was playing hockey and tripped over the blue line. But he didn't look good. But again, they threw the ball a lot more than they were going to throw it. And I think that the reason that Dalton maybe played as long as he did and threw the ball as much as he did was because the coaches want to see how these other receivers and these other players play. And they know that he can go in there and knows the offense, and it gives them a really good chance to look at these other guys. So I don't really look at Andy Dalton. You know, he had a bad game, but I think it was more of him being out there to try to get these other guys involved so the coaching staff can see what they got. Yeah,
look, we saw Andy Dalton, what he did when he took over for those few games when they benched Bryce, and I'm not worried about him. If they have to go to Andy Dalton in a situation, I would be perfectly fine with it. I'm not going to let a bad outing in a preseason game,
exactly.
Kind of cloud that.
Exactly. I mean, that game, the Panthers certainly were playing a lot of these guys and running a lot of the plays to try to see what they had.
Yeah.
And that's what they have to do. And they don't have to cut down, I guess, until the week before the regular season.
It used to be they used to have 2 or 3 cuts during the preseason. Now, they just have that one big cut there towards the end.
You watch any other games this weekend and anybody stand out to you in the preseason? I know there was a few that stood out to me.
Watched a little bit of your Giants on Saturday against Buffalo. I was impressed with Jackson Dart. I mean, I know Russell's going to start the year at quarterback, but I could see why they thought so high of him. He had some good moments on Saturday, I thought, against the Bills.
He really did, man. You're right. Russell's going to start. I don't think there's any doubt about it. And he played the first couple series. I just hope that he doesn't become check down Charlie, because that's kind of what he did in Pittsburgh last year. He still throws a nice deep ball, but he seems to just check down quite a bit. And if he's going to do that, the Giants' offense is going to struggle. Their defense showed a lot of flashes, and Abdul Carter just looks like he's out of this world. I mean, that kid, he was going up against a Pro Bowl tackle and making him look silly.
Yeah.
So if he stays healthy, I think the Giants' defensive line could be really, really good. It's just going to be a matter of if their offensive line is good, and then what happens at quarterback.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of that. I didn't watch the game, but looks like the Commanders need Terry McLaurin back. And not that Terry McLaurin would have played the other night anyway if he was in the fold, but I think that helped him when the receivers that were out there struggled.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, and maybe we can talk to Buck about this, somebody's going to have to blink here. And you figure your Commanders, the closer you get to the regular season starting, I don't know if a cave is the right word, but you're going to have to maybe just come to the realization we need this guy on the field. So they didn't look good against the Patriots. My wife were real happy with the Packers Saturday night. They looked pretty bad.
Yeah.
Just, Cowboys lost, which anytime is good.
Always.
Preseason or regular season.
Speaking of the Cowboy game, we talk about how the Panthers need help a linebacker. The referee that tackled CeeDee Lamb, they need to get him in for a tryout. That was a great hit, man. CeeDee's lucky.
The best hit of the weekend.
Yeah, he's lucky he didn't break his back on that one. I'm sure Jerry Jones is thinking, well, if that would have been Micah Parsons that got hit, he'd miss 4 games. But he got drilled. If you haven't seen it, it's hilarious, and he's okay, thankfully. But that was one of the damnedest things I've seen.
And of course, it would happen with the Cowboys out there.
Well, and the pass that was still in the air when CeeDee Lamb was running, and the pass was to Jonathan Mingo. So it wasn't like he was going to catch it anyway.
Yeah.
And obviously CeeDee doesn't know Mingo like we do. But, that was a crazy play. The Cowboys are they're a mess. This whole thing with Micah is just getting worse. There doesn't seem to be any communications. Jerry Jones is kind of digging in and still making his comments. You got Dak Prescott telling the Sean McVay and the owner of the Rams, we'll see in the NFC Championship.
They're going to have tickets.
Dak have on his big screen TV and his $80 million mansion is the only way I see him doing that. But you can't put too much in the preseason. We all know that. There's teams, those great Bills teams never won a preseason game, and they go to the Super Bowl every year. I am a believer, though, that you can get, when you're a young team in particular, you have to learn to win. The Patriots, you just brought up against the Redskins. They looked outstanding, and they look like a team that, number one, they brought in an influx of talent, through free agency, through the draft. They bring in Mike Vrabel, who has already put in an attitude that, if you're a Patriot fan, who I'm not, but if you're a Patriot fan, you've got to be excited. This dude is talking to the media like Bill Belichick. He's diving into fights and breaking it up and getting his face busted open. But the Redskins almost ran to a buzzsaw. You know, you could just tell that they were so fired up to be out there. They opened the game.
Travion Henderson from Ohio State, opening kickoff, takes it to the house.
Yep.
And maybe it was that great statue of Brady that they unveiled Friday night that got the Patriots fired up. But no, that's, you know, I think the Patriots feel like they're that, I don't want to call it the it team, but they're the team that everybody like watch out for. I don't think they're going to threaten the Bills in the East, but, you know, could they threaten for a playoff spot? Yeah, perhaps.
Well, I'd say the Jets as well. You know, the Jets look good, and they've got that same kind of thing. Aaron Glenn's brought an attitude in there. He's brought discipline in there. I mean, you know, you saw one of the players of the Jets took an unsportsmanlike.
Oh, he got after
he got all
yes,
over
he
him.
did.
And so, you know, that division is going to be interesting because you're right. The Bills should do what the Bills have been doing. Josh Allen is still Josh Allen, but the Jets and the Patriots are going to be better. If Justin Fields can do anything, the Jets are going to be better. And the Patriots, you know, Drake May looked good against the Redskins. I mean, he had a couple bad throws, but, you know, he's going to continue to develop. They've got some receivers, it appears now. And then Trevon Henderson, man, this kid is going to be a problem.
Well, he was a problem at Ohio State. And he trucked people. And his speed, I think, was on display when he took that kickoff to the house the other night.
I mean, open the game. I loved how Brady did take a shot at the Jets, though. In his speech about how, you know, they'll be watching from home during the playoffs and all that stuff, and it's good to see.
Speaking of, kind of back to golfers, I don't know if you saw it yet. They showed it yesterday. Eli Manning, he dressed up like a FedEx carrier.
I did.
And he had a great line to Keegan Bradley. Because Keegan Bradley didn't recognize him. He didn't know who he was. And Keegan Bradley's walking away before he knew who Eli was. And Eli said, "I always deliver. Just go ask the Patriots." And that's when Keegan Bradley turned around and went, "Oh, my God, it's Eli Manning."
Well, it reminded me, I saw that, and it reminded me of two different things. Number one, when Eli Manning, if you remember years ago when he was still playing, dressed up like he was a walk-on at Penn State, and was just throwing seeds, and everyone in there was like, "Who is it?" And he had the long hair, and he was just throwing missiles. And then also, and I know you'll remember this, but when Greg Maddux threw batting practice and did the same kind of thing in Chicago, he kind of went under the skies, and it was Chris Bryant was up there, and Maddox is just throwing that change up and whatever, and he's like, "Who is this guy?" You know, and then they revealed that it was Greg Maddux. But I did see that, and I tell you, Eli Manning and Peyton Manning are going to make more money probably in this media business than they did playing football, and that's saying something. They're really good at it.
They're killing it, man. Obviously, you see them on Monday nights on ESPN doing their thing, but they're so good, and they're naturals, and Peyton, you knew was going to be. Eli's the one I think everybody's like, wow.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will tell you, Eli's funnier than Peyton.
100%.
A lot of people think.
100%. And as a Giant fan and following Eli all those years, he always seemed like he was just this dull, quiet dude. And to see him now, he's hilarious. Yeah. And he's smart. You know, when you listen to those guys break down tape, especially on offense, obviously, if I was a quarterback coach, I think part of my meeting every week, I would show some of their breakdown that they do on Monday night, because it's like going to school. And that's why a lot of times I'll watch them on Monday nights, and I get kind of frustrated when they have a guest on, because I'd rather actually just listen to Peyton and Eli break down what's happening in the game than be talking to some actor about, you know, what's going on. I'm like, I'd actually like to hear what you think about what we just saw. I agree. And, you know, ESPN, if you haven't heard, just bought the NFL Network. So now the Red Zone will be on ESPN. They're saying they're not going to make any changes. We'll see. I'll believe it when I see it. I hope that's not something that they screw up, but it wouldn't shock me. And but they did say something that I thought was pretty interesting. They're thinking about doing a college Red Zone.
Yes.
If that happens,
which a lot of people have been clamoring for years, that there should be some type of thing like that. And, you know, you see it in the College World Series or NCAA baseball tournament. You see like this whip around coverage where they go to all these different games. And I think that would be a home run to do that for a Saturday in college football.
And if you're ESPN and you do that, the revenue that they can bring in from DraftKings or FanDuel, or they have their own ESPN bet, whatever, the revenue they can bring in on that's unbelievable. And that is something that I do think they do a great job. But their college football programming is great. I think it's the best in the business. So that'll be interesting. I hope they do that. I don't know if it'll be this year, maybe too soon for them to put that together. And we're getting there. The first game, I believe, is August 23rd. So
a week from Saturday is week 0.
Yeah. So they're going to have to turn that around pretty quick. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Brentson Buckner, NFL, great player, great coach, is going to join us. We'll talk Panthers and other stuff in the NFL.
It's time to suit up. Here's your host, DJ the Suit Stout.
Welcome back to Suit Up Sports. I'm DJ the Suit Stout along with Mark Yarbro, and now we welcome Brentson Buckner to the show. Buck, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
Good, Buck. Good to see you.
Doing good.
It's been a while, y'all, bro.
I know it's been a long time.
A few more gray hairs probably the last time you saw me, Buck, but man, always good to chop it up with you, buddy.
I hear you. It's good to come on a Monday after having a weekend of football. It seems like it's been forever. Well, it has been forever. Let's start with the Panthers, because I know you said you were at the game Friday night. A lot of people are obviously excited to see the Panthers play, but Shedeur Sanders also getting the first start, seeing what he was going to do. Before I dive into questions, give us your thoughts on what you saw at the game.
I saw a heightened energy, especially from the fans. I think the excitement in the city is good, and I think it carries over to the team. One thing I wanted to see was Bryce Young move the ball with the offense, the confidence. I think they're going in the right direction. Over there, the energy. I think they're physical on the interior, the offensive line. I think they're going to have a good running game. I like the two running backs.
Mm-hmm.
I think Etienne is going to be a great number 3 young guy to come about. Skill positions are good. Defensively, you're missing some guys. Derrick Brown doesn't play, but they got some good young guys. The one guy that caught my eye was number 31, the cornerback.
Corey Thornton.
Corey Thornton. Yeah.
No, he is. I think they found a gem with him. I think. Right now, coming from a coaching side to now, I know a lot of fans they want to see Super Bowl contender first preseason game. But I think what the Panthers saw was they got some guys that they can build with, that can compete with, and that if they keep on building and staying ahead of the injury report, that it's going to be a pretty good season for the Carolina Panthers.
Buck, last year we saw Canales not play the starters until that very last game in Buffalo. They played, a series or two. Different philosophy this year. Do you like him playing the starters a little bit more this preseason than this year?
Yes, I do. I'm old school when the starters used to play in the preseason.
Yeah.
The backups didn't really get no rep until the last preseason game. I think when you got a young team and you're trying to build something, you want to get that chemistry going early. You want to ride up. They've been having great practices. You want to ride. You want to see it. You want to see it in real time. Because being a coach, the only way you get better at football is playing football.
Yeah.
Playing against somebody else other than the guys you're practicing against. So I'm a big fan of getting my guys in and get some work, because when the season starts, it go from 0 to 60 real quick.
Yeah.
And, you want that speed right now, because you don't want to have to play catch up once the season starts. So the way he's approaching it right now, I think is real good.
Let me ask you about Corey Thornton, because you mentioned him, the undrafted rookie out of Louisville. Great size for a DB. He's the size that Dan Morgan and Canales liked in their DBs. Didn't get drafted, and I'm guessing the reason because he ran like a 4.6 40 at on his pro day. We hear so much about speed these days, and you've coached it as well as when you played. How does a cornerback like him, who doesn't get drafted, who runs a 4.6, still seem to be on the ball and making these plays? Is it more about positioning, or because all you hear about now is speed? Yet this guy obviously isn't as fast as a lot of these DBs out there, but he's making plays and he's everywhere.
I think you go back to a guy like Terrell Davis, and I use him as an example. Running back out of Georgia, he ran 4.6. Nobody hit him. But, you get guys that can run a 4.3, but when they put in pads, they run 4.8.
Yeah.
He's 6 at 4.6, but get in pads, he runs a 4.6.
Yeah.
So it's just play speed. And I think that comes with being a football player. I think we get so enamored with the sports science of you got to be super fast, but no, do you play fast? Mm-hmm. And that's what I learned as a coach. A guy might be slow stopwatch-wise because, Guys ain't track stars, they football players. But can you play faster? Do you know the angles to get to your job being faster so you play faster than what you run? Jerry Rice is another great example. You know, he runs a 4.6, 4.7, but you put the ball in his hand, nobody catches him because he plays fast. So I think that's what it's about. You know, the young man, he might be clock slow, you know, running the 40. He's not a track star. You know, you don't have the form. But you put that ball in his hand or you put him on the football field covering people, he plays a lot faster. And I've been blessed to be around Tyrann Mathieu, who was like that.
Yeah.
You know, he's not going to run the blazing 40, but you tell us about who play faster than him on the football field. And that's what they find. That's how you find those gems, because in the draft room, we got to knock him down because he's a 4.6. But you get that guy and you put the pass on, you're like, oh, you put a clock on, he might be a 4.4 now in football.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people wanted to see T-Mac first time in game situation. We saw that Friday night, kind of a mixed bag. What was your initial impressions of what you saw from T-Mac?
I think he's a big target. You know, a guy who's going to give the quarterback a greater area for error. I mean, I don't have to put the ball right on him because he's a big body. And he's going to go out there. He's going to catch the ball. It gives you a big threat on the outside. You know, still some things he's got to do. I think the more and more he worked on getting off on the press, because in college you're that big, everybody plays off.
Right.
Yeah.
He's going to get challenged in the NFL, but he's going to have to continue to grow into that because he's a physical presence. And you know, I see that guy. He looks like a power forward. You know, with his uniform on. And what he's going to have to do is just add a little bit more physicalness to his get off, you know, getting off the line of scrimmage, which he's going to learn because right now he doesn't know what he doesn't know.
Right.
So, but right now, impressions, I think they did real good with this pick. He's going to give that quarterback, you know, a bigger weapon, bigger wide receivers out there who can win those 50-50 balls.
He looks the part, doesn't he, Bucky? I hear you guys talk about it all the time. Well, he looks like, you know, Tarzan that plays like Jane. He looks the part, though, when you see him, even without pads, you're like, this dude looks like he could be big time.
Oh, when I walked out there to practice last week, and I'm just looking, he walked by, I was like, oh, it catches your eye. You know, he's one of them guys who get off the bus first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He'll walk into the stadium first. And, you know, I'm a firm believer. Big people beat little people all the time.
Yeah.
You know, that's not a knock on little people. Football is a big person world. And there's a spot for small people in this game. But like you always say, small people have to play big in football.
Yeah.
People are already big, and then if they play big, they become a problem. But he looks the part, and I think he's going to do well in this NFL game.
Let's stick on the receivers for a minute because there's a couple I want to ask you about. But let's start with Xavier Legette, who showed, you know, this offseason he worked on his boxing a lot to get in shape and have quicker hands. And he seemed to take that into the game. I thought his uppercuts looked pretty good to me. And, you know, he's taking some heat for it, but I had no problem with it. You know, everyone's talking about how he's supposed to be a big, physical, tough receiver. And the dude that he got in the scrap with had been talking crap in the practices, threw a football at Chuba Hubbard. So there was obviously some bad blood right there. I had no problem with Xavier losing his cool in a preseason game. We don't want, you know, in the regular season, Mark and I were talking about, that'd be a different ball game. And obviously you want to see them, I guess, keep their composure better than that. But what were your thoughts on that?
You want to, you know, the coach in me, you want to see them keep their composure because, you know, as a coach, whatever you do, you don't want it to carry over to the regular season. You know, the regular season, he's out for the rest of the game. He's hurting the team. But you do like the fact that he's not going to get pumped by anybody. And I know I coached Jinx in Jacksonville.
Oh, you did? Okay.
You know, Jinx don't care who he fight. And if he's in the Miami Hurricane and he plays the mental game with you and he wants to get you know, out of your game. But I like the physicality in which the Jets showed. But you just want him to keep his composure. And I got where the head coach is coming from. You just can't do it. And, you know, as a player, you're like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to get pumped. I'm not going to. But in the big totality of it, you don't want to hurt the team because he's going to be a big part of what Carolina Panthers want to do. You want to see him hold his composure. You don't want to break his hand. You know, I didn't know he took boxing and he went straight to the skills. But you're hitting a guy with a helmet on that. You just want to be smart about it. So, you know, as a coach, as I got older as a coach, I just was like, the best way to get back, take money out of that guy's pocket. Every time I'm going against him, I'm going to make them want to cut him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm going to block him out the stadium. If I'm going to catch the ball, I'm going to make him look bad. I'm going to take money out of his pocket the right way while I'm still staying in the game and help my team.
Buck, is there a concern if you're Dave Canales that, other teams see that and go, hey, we can get under that guy's skin. Let's try to push the envelope a little bit on him.
Oh, yes. You're always concerned about that because people will see, he's a hothead. Go after him. You know what I mean? So Dave is doing it right. You want to nip it in the bud. You want them to understand the importance of it. Because when I was coaching with BA, if you got into a fight in practice, he don't care if it was individual period, he kicked you out the rest of the practice because he was like, this is what you're doing to the team.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let you go back into practice after getting in the fight because it's not going to happen on Sunday when we're playing for real. So Dave is doing a good job trying to nip it in the bud because you're going to have people who intentionally go after them, go after them to hide their hands and, get you because they always catch the second guy.
Yeah. Right.
So you want this guy to learn how to control his composure and just understand it's going to be a part of the game you're going to have to go through. But you do it the right way. When it's time to compete in between the whistles, take money out of his pocket. Make them want to cut him. Make them look bad. That's the greatest revenge you could ever get.
Yeah. What was the best fight you've ever seen in a preseason or regular season game?
In a regular season game, I remember when Chester McLaughlin jumped on Frank.
I was going to bring that up. That's the one I remember.
That's why I hired Frank.
Not here today. He's playing golf, but that's one of the best fights
I
I've
remember
ever
that
seen.
because me and Chester were best friends from college.
Yeah.
And I know Chester is a big guy, but Chester's really not a fighter. But he's an instigator. He'll start the fight, then with everything going, he'll just throw his hands up and just let it go. But those are some fights. I was just watching a couple of days ago when I was playing for Pittsburgh, and our punter got to fight with the whole Oilers back in those. Our punter really got kicked out of the game for punching one of the DBs in the face from the Oilers, and I'm just like, that's a punter. It's been some fights. Practice-wise, the one that the Rams and the Dallas Cowboys had, I want to say about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, I remember that one,
They shut the camp down.
Yeah.
Those fights, I was there in Pittsburgh for Antonio Brown and Ike Taylor. They fought.
That had to be a good one.
They fought literally from the time practice started to the end. We said the prayer at the end of practice. They went right back to fight. It was so bad that Mr. Rooney had to literally come out there, and that's the only way the fight stopped. Mr. Rooney had to come out there and literally get in between them. I think at the time he was like 80-something years old. Wow. It was like World War III.
What was the one too with the Redskins? Michael West, was it Westbrook?
Oh, Stephen Davis.
Stephen Davis and Westbrook. Remember that was a good one.
Yeah.
From what point of view was it a good one?
Well, that's true.
Yeah, it was a one-sided fight.
That
was a one-sided fight because he stole on the guy. I'm talking about where the fights that I like to see. If you say I like to see where you know I'm finna fight you. I know you finna fight me. Now we're going. The ones where you get sneak from behind.
That's true.
I have no respect for that. Especially
that's true.
And Buck, a lot of times we see these fights now with these joint practices, and I think so far I don't think there's been a scuffle. There was a scuffle here and there last week with the Panthers and Browns, but nothing major. Do you like these joint practices? I know the Panthers are going to go down to Houston early and work with those guys this week.
I like it because you get a chance to work your craft against somebody else that you hadn't seen. When you're going against your guy at practice, it becomes a point where you're almost brother-in-law on each other. All right, we done went through camp hard. You take care of me, I take care of you. But when you go against these joint practices, now the competitive spirit kicks in. Because now that guy don't care nothing about you. He's trying to win the job. Right, so you got to go out there and practice and protect yourself, and you got to hone your skills. You got to be on point every now and then. So I really like it. I think it's good, especially with preseason games getting cut back, because now these practices become great evaluation periods for guys who are not going to get a lot of playing time.
Yeah. What from a defensive standpoint, you mentioned Corey Thornton. What else stood out to you on defense? Obviously, the Panthers brought in a lot of free agents. You mentioned Derek Brown didn't play, J.C. Horn didn't play. But anybody on the defensive line surprise you or stand out to you?
I like the young kid, the young rusher number 11. His name is, I think, from Texas A&M.
Nick Scorton.
Nick Scorton. I think he has some ability. I think up front, the size of Carolina looks a lot different. I know, people are sort of like, well, they gave up 125 yards rushing this preseason. but they just look bigger and physical up front. Nobody's not just going to be able to just line up and just punch them in the mouth. And I see the direction they're going. They're not a finished product, but the way Dan and Dave are building this team, you can see the direction. And as a coach, that's what you want to see. You want the fans to see the direction you're going. You're not there yet. It's still a distance you got to go. But as long as I can see the direction, I know the future is going to be bright.
Buck, we know how bad this defense was last year. You get Derek Brown back. I mean, can you equate just what difference he can make returning? I mean, that's almost like going out and signing a big-time free agent, getting him back from injury this year.
Man, Derek Brown is a difference maker. You know, I joke with Mac and them. I remember when Derek Brown was coming in the draft, they drafted him. I said, Derek Brown has a chance to be an elite defensive lineman. The fans on the radio killed me. He's not this, he's not that. But as a coach, you see what he can become. As a general manager, you draft guys what they did, but you want to know 5 or 6 years from now he's going to develop or something. Yeah. He is a difference maker up front. And we know you control the line of scrimmage, you control the game because you stop the run, and then if you can affect the quarterback, you help your defensive backs out. And that's the kind of guy that Derek is. Anytime you get a defensive lineman that's getting double team but still having 100 tackles a game, that's just letting you know he's an unstoppable force. Now, you get some other pieces around him where he can't be doubled as much. Just imagine how much production he's going to have now. And that's the kind of guy he is. He's going to make the second level better because they're going to have to double team. And when they don't double team him, then he's going to make more plays. It's only going to have the defense better because now it's 3rd and 10, 3rd and 9. You know it's going to be a pass. You can pin your ears back, and guys on the back end know they're not going to have enough time to throw the ball, so it affects the whole defense.
When you were at practice and then obviously at the game, I'm guessing that you got to be around Bryce Young a little bit, obviously getting to watch him practice. Does he seem like a different guy out there right now? I mean, we obviously saw him get some confidence towards the end of last year when he came back after getting benched, had a great finish to the season. Does he seem like a different player out there, the way he carries himself? His accuracy obviously is something that he hangs his hat on, and he was great at the end of last year. Had the beautiful pass to McMillan down the sideline, had another pass to McMillan that was a beautiful ball that McMillan didn't get around quick enough on. But does he seem to be a different guy when you're around him?
Yes, he does. He looks he has a lot more confidence about himself. He walks on the field almost like, I'm in control of this. My guys believe in me. I've shown them that I can play. He took his bumps and bruises because when I was coaching in Jacksonville, we played him. And it was a little shaky for him early. And, I was afraid that he was going to be shell-shocked because he took so many licks. He was struggling right now. And being a quarterback, being the number 1 pick overall, you got the whole franchise on your back. Right. You're going to get all the credit when you win, but when you're losing, you're going to get all the blame. But now when he walks on the field, he doesn't let the outside noise bother him. He's in control. The guys actually believe in him. And as a quarterback, being the leader of the team, that's what you want. You want guys to look at you when you walk in the huddle, oh, we got a chance to win. We're going to protect like hell for you. We're gonna play a little bit harder for you. We understand that you are our general and you make us go. So when you see him in practice, it's a whole different confidence when he walks. He actually, when you see him in practice and he play, he looks bigger than what he is because of the confidence. It's like he grows a couple of more inches, he gains some more pounds, but he walks with that confidence, and guys play for him.
Buck, obviously,
no, go ahead.
I was going to say around here, everybody was concerned and wanting to see what the Panthers had, but nationally, we know the focus was on Shedeur Sanders. I think he was a player probably under more spotlight than what he was in his first preseason game. What was your impressions of what you saw from him?
Well, Shedeur, he's gonna have confidence. He's a skillful guy. A guy who has a very good football IQ, and he did what he was supposed to do. You take advantage of your opportunities. What I don't like is people act like he's the first 4th-string quarterback that don't get no reps. 4th-string guys, and no matter what the position is, you don't get reps. They tell you from day one, you get minimal reps, and when you get the game, you're going to have to show us what you're doing. He took advantage of his opportunities. He made some throws. He made some plays. Another one of those guys, when he's on the field, because he has so much confidence in himself, it exudes throughout out the team. And so you want that. I think it was a great start for him. I'm not going to crown him the next coming of
Yeah.
Pat Mahomes, but he did what he's supposed to do. He took advantage of his opportunities and he made plays. But as you get going, let's see you do it against the ones. You know how the speed picks up a little bit. And are they gonna open the playbook? The one thing I did notice is when the one defense of Carolina was out there, they was a little cautious with him. Let's throw screens, let's get the ball out of his hand. Now, as the competition went down, they got more like nice 3 versus 3s, 2 versus 2 forward. They let him loose a little bit because it wasn't a danger of him getting in trouble with those guys. But he did what he was supposed to do. He was successful. I like the kid. I don't get into that, well, I'm drafted at, I should have been there. You got drafted where you got drafted at.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing you can do about it. Now, all you ever want is an opportunity. You're not the first person that's taking advantage of an opportunity no matter where you got drafted, because I believe the best quarterback that ever played this game by people, when he a 6th-round draft choice.
Yeah, I think I've heard that once or twice.
Yeah.
The pieces fall where they may.
Let me answer this question. So we were talking earlier about how, when Shedeur came to, and we know that his pre-draft interviews are supposedly why he fell in the draft. There's stories for the Giants in particular where he didn't show up knowing the playbook, or he had his headphones on, or was playing video games on his phone and all these things. And he really didn't seem to take it serious. And that's why they say he fell. As a veteran, if you're on a team and there's a guy that comes in, 5th-round draft choice, quarterback, when he got off the bus and comes walking into the stadium with his entourage and the jam box playing and the guy holding the guillotine or whatever it was, and all these things, like I told Mark, I felt like he was walking to getting ready to fight in the UFC or something, but as a veteran player, and I haven't read any of the vets say anything negative about it, but I wondered, is that one of those things where some of the vets are in there going, look, man, this dude's walking in here with an entourage and all this stuff going on. He hasn't done a damn thing. He's a 5th-round draft choice. And does that rub the vets wrong a little bit, or could it?
It only rubs them wrong if he plays bad.
Yeah.
We're in NFL, I hate to say it, we're reactive. You can come in with all the bravado you want to. But now we're going to judge you on what we not had. He went out there and thrown 4 or 5 interceptions. Somebody tapped him on the shoulder, hey, calm that mess down.
Yeah.
He earned the right. But, hey, he went out there and earned the right to do that again this week. But that comes with him. That's the way he's been raised in the sport. To walk in there with the bravado and the Muhammad Ali effect is what I call that. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. And if I do it, I look great. If I don't, it's going to be a little booze and that. But for the most part, right now, he's earned the right to do it again because he came in and he played. Now, the one thing I can say, he does draw a crowd, because when I'm walking to the stadium, I didn't know Cleveland Browns had this many fans outside. You know what I mean? And let's be honest, a lot of the people that was there cheering for the Panthers were also there cheering for him too. They want to see it. He's a show.
Yeah.
So right now, he's earned the right to do it again because he stood up. His evaluation was great. None of that stuff, bothered him on the field. Now, if he goes out here this week, do the same thing, and he struggles, then you'll start hearing the moans. Now the vets are going to go to him. But he's not the first guy to come in with that type of bravado. But he backed up his word. So now let's go to week 2.
When you played at San Fran, was Dion on any of those teams, or had he already left?
Dion had already left when I got to San Fran.
Okay. Do you know Dion at all? Because I've been, a big fan of what he's done at Colorado. I love his message that he preaches. I think he's going to do a great job there. And like I said, even Shedeur, I have no problem with the bravado. I just, I was just curious if the vets got rubbed the wrong way. But you make a great point. If you're winning, that covers up everything. And if you start losing and playing like crap doing it, then I totally can see him, the vets having to say something. But did you know Dion well? I mean, were you buddies with him? I know obviously him being a coach, he coaches kids, as youngsters all the way then. I know you did as well. So it seems like you guys would have a lot in common.
Yes, no. Dion is one of those guys, because when I was coming out of high school, he was at Florida State. Florida State recruited me. You wanted to be Dion. Dion was the reason I wore a single-digit number in high school. I'm a defensive lineman. I wanted to be a single-digit. I wanted the bravado. I wanted to talk. So he's like a cult hero. Then you see the way he affects the Little League football, then the high school football, you see it carry over. He is the master of, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, and then when I do it, I'm going to let you know I'm going to do it. And so there's a whole generation of adults my age that grew up just in awe of Deion. Even when I got to the NFL playing on the level, when he got to the Dallas Cowboys, it became even bigger because he was on America's team.
Yeah.
We played against him in the Super Bowl, and I say I'm out there on defense against the offense, but when he walked on the field, you sitting there watching that prime.
Yeah.
That's no prime. So I sort of know Deion has that likability. I must say that the bravado that people just love. And a lot of people love it because they can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
He carries the torch for people who live vicariously through him.
Yeah.
And so, but Deion's always been the guy that if I see somewhere I got a question or he knows everybody. Hey, Buck, what's up? We never hung in it. We never been best friends or hung out, but Deion is a very knowledgeable guy. He understands everybody. He always got a listening ear for anybody, that plays the game or don't play the game. So you can't help but respect that.
I just remember when he was with the 49ers after he left the Falcons, he came back. First time he played against the Falcons at the Georgia Dome, and he torched somebody on the Falcons. And after the game, he said, "This is my house. I built this house."
Yeah.
The Georgia Dome.
Yeah.
It was so funny, Yarbro, because I was at Clemson then. I was actually at that game.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Me and a couple of my teammates, they got tickets, and we drove down there. We drove down there to the game just to see it, and it was a show. And just to show you how influential he is, San Fran had already had 3 or 4 world titles by then. Jerry Rice was known as a clean-cut guy. I'm doing my job. I hand the ball to the referee. I go to the sideline. You get down. He get to San Francisco. Jerry Rice dancing after scoring. Big head
Cabbage Patch.
He just changed the whole mentality of that team because it's so infectious that because he said, man, we put in work. We know we about to beat this team. Let's go out here and celebrate it and walk in that authority. And that's the kind of effect that Deion had no matter where he went.
Yeah. Any other games you watched this weekend that there was a few players that stood out to you or even teams that stood out to you that you kind of like, okay, all right, this kid's got something, or this team looks like they're much improved from last year?
Well, I watched the Patriots, and it's so funny. Their running back draft choice out of Ohio State, the first time he touches the ball, it's a kickoff return for a touchdown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And everybody complained, we don't get kickoff. It's going to be hard to score. And here a guy goes 100 yards for a touchdown.
Yeah.
You can see the speed. And even the player, that offensive lineman Campbell coming out of LSU, people are like, is he going to struggle at left tackle? But he even played good. You look at Shedeur, teammate that's played for the Baltimore Ravens, the return guy, he takes a punt back to the house.
Yeah.
A team that I'm really looking at that I think they were good last year and they caught people by surprise, but I think they're taking the next step of the Denver Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
You watch them play. They play at a different speed, especially on defense. They got 3 or 4 guys that can harass your quarterback over and over again. Zach Allen, who's just got a big contract, he led all defensive tackles with pressures and hits on the quarterback. You got the outside guys. You've got Pat Surtain Jr., who's probably arguably the best cornerback in the game right now. They're playing well. And so I think Denver Broncos is a team that sort of stood out to me in the first week that, hey, this team is going to build off what they did last year.
But how quickly do you think these hold-ins, this stuff gets figured out with Terry McLaurin, Trey Hendrickson, Micah Parsons? You got James Cook now in Buffalo doing a hold-in. He suited up Saturday but then refused to play. How quickly can these things get resolved?
It's all based on how good or bad the team looks in preseason.
Right. Yeah.
That team go out there and struggle, just like say if the quarterback in Washington go out there struggle because he don't have a Scary Terry, then that contract talk started to speed up a little bit. Buffalo struggles on offense without a running back. It speeds up. But I think what those guys have to be careful of, and you actually look at what happened in Buffalo, you suit it up and then it comes out, you refuse to go in the game. You start to lose a little respect.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to ask. Yeah,
in that locker room. Now it's okay if you're not dressed out and you're not going, but when you got that uniform on and the coach asks you to go in and you don't go in, now you're going in a whole different no direction. My thing is, if you're not going to play, don't dress out.
Yeah.
Don't dress out. But you don't want the narrative is you're not going out there helping your brothers. So I think as this preseason go on, because you look at Cincinnati. Cincinnati gonna score points on anybody.
Right.
Yep.
But they are porous on defense, and your best player is there. You're not paying him. Now you're gonna start getting a little. The owner's gonna start getting a little pushback from the fans.
Yeah,
hey, man. Trey's sitting over in the sideline, double-digit sacks every year. He comes to work. He does his job. Let's get this guy going. But that zoo out there in Dallas, that's just crazy. I never heard of. I don't want to deal with your agent. Well, that's what I pay him for.
Yeah.
Right.
You got to deal with my agent. I would be a fool now. We can have a verbal agreement. Hey, I like those numbers, but I'm always going to tell you, call my agent.
That's a rule, isn't it? You have to deal with the agent. That's not something you can. I'm going to pass on that. No, you can't do that.
Deal with the agent. The agent's going to be a part of it because he got to look over the contract. He got to make sure that my best interest is up to par. You can't go behind the agent's back and do those things. And I think right now, I respect Jerry Jones. I think he's a great businessman. But right now, the way that he's handling that business with Michael Parsons is sort of crazy because you're letting the public opinion fall. You're letting this stuff get outside in the public.
Yeah.
And the public either going to go with the player or against the player. But when you start hearing other players come out and say, this is how Jerry does business. No, that's a bad look for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, you can go make an oil deal shaking a dude's hand, but you can't do that in the NFL.
Yeah.
Not in the NFL, because you mess around, don't let your agent read that contract. They'll change that language up on you quick. We saw it in Cincinnati with their draft choice in the first round.
Yeah.
The agent said, hold up, this language is not right. This language has not been in everybody else's contract that's been in the first round. So I love teams. I've been on both sides as a player, and I've been on both sides, as a coach on the front. Dog, the front office is all about what's good for the team. So the agent is supposed to be the in-between. Let me make sure everything's fair for the player. So, it's just a crazy situation, but that's where football is headed right now.
What percentage does an agent get in the NFL?
So you got some guys, 3% is the standard, but you got agents now that go on a sliding scale based on where you draft. If you draft it high, 3%. The lower you get, the lower I charge. But it's like 3% is the standard right now.
Gotcha. So that agent stands to make a nice pop on that too. And whether it's with the Cowboys or not, Micah's getting paid. So I mean, he's getting paid and I saw Des Bryant, like you said, some of the old Dallas players are coming out now. Even Michael Irvin ripping Jerry Jones and saying that they went through a lot of these same type of things. And it's a zoo there, and they've got a lot of talent on that team. But man, you don't want to go into the season. We've seen it before. I think we talked about the Dallas Cowboys when Emmitt Smith held out for the first 2 games, and they went 0-2. And struggled, and then bang, like you just said, when they're playing bad and they're not running the ball, okay, let's get him the damn deal. But they're just wasting so much time, and it's inevitable they're going to pay him. I mean, what are they going to? I guess they could trade him, but right now Jerry has egg on his face, and the only way he's going to get that off is to sign him, and that's assuming that Michael would even stay there. I mean, he stated that he just doesn't want to play there anymore, which again, I'm sure the right size check will change his mind. But who when you played football, was there a guy that held out on any of your teams that you would talk to and say, come on, man, just take the deal, or do you just stay out of that and the players handle their own business? Yeah,
you stay out of it. One thing we always say in the NFL, you never count another man's pocket. I'm not going to tell you what you can take. Yeah, I would love to have you here. Especially if you're a good player, you can help us win. But I'm not going to tell you what you think is enough for you. Because when I was a rookie in Pittsburgh, Eric Green was holding out. He held out the whole training camp. And, the stories in Pittsburgh, like, is he going to play? We need him. And we sort of struggled at that tight end position. We played Dallas the first week of the season. Eric, miraculously that Monday, Eric Green's contract is coming. so, as a player, you stay out of it because you don't want it, because first time you say something in the media about he need to be here, well, Buck said that this is enough money for you. You need to be here. So you don't want that. You don't want those problems with your brother that you got to go to fight with. You just hope it gets done. You hope both sides come to a decision and they can work it out, especially if it's going to help the team.
But, Buck, does that kind of change? You kind of said it in there when Eric Green held out, but you mentioned Jaden Daniels a second ago. Let's say this thing carries into the regular season and Washington struggles week 1 against the Giants. Is there a point where Jaden Daniels goes to Josh Harris and Adam Peters and say, we got to get something done here, man. I need this dude.
No, what he's going to do, he's going to go to Cliff Kingsbury. Hey, Cliff, these plays not looking the same. He's going to let Cliff go to the head coach. Then they're going to trickle up the line, and You saw it in San Fran when Trent Williams was holding out.
Mm-hmm.
That quarterback blindside wasn't getting protected like it was.
Yeah.
You just believe that position coach was like, hey, why the quarterback not looking good? Well, he's uncomfortable when he's sitting there. People breathing down the back of his neck. Trent Williams, let's get this done. So that's how you let it go. But when it started affecting that quarterback or the way the team is going to go, then the talks are going to enhance. It's going to go. But Jerry said something the other day. Well, he said, I don't know if a lot of people caught it. Well, Mike, we paid Michael $20-some million. He missed his game and we ain't won then. So am I getting my money worth? So Jerry dug in. Jerry's like, man, you over here making $22 million and you don't want to play and you don't miss 6 games. So and he's putting out in the public to let you know I'm not gonna break as much as you think of it because we haven't won with you.
Yeah.
So,
that's true. What, James Cook, real quick, and I know you've been kind enough to spend some time with us, and I'll let you go. But I wanted to ask you one other question on that same line: the James Cook situation, where he does dress out and then refuses to go in the game. Is that something that the players pull him aside, or is that something the players, start resenting a little bit? Maybe they don't go to him and say something to his face, but behind closed doors, when you're with your buddies having dinner or something, is that something that could build into an issue? Yeah,
it'll be some rumblings, but when you got good leadership, like I believe they do have it there, because I think Brandon Beane has built that team the right way. The quarterback might go to him like, look, man, it's going to be bad for you. You dress out, and they saying you refuse to go to the game. If you're not going to go, just tell me I'm not going to dress out. You know what I mean? I'll be in street clothes. But we don't want this to be bigger than football. We want to keep the main thing the main thing. That's about winning a championship, and we're all together. You know, because best believe it's strategic that get leaked into the media. That he was going to the game because they're trying to get some pushback from the fans and they want stuff to push to their side. But it could go bad because guys will mumble and go about. But if you got great leadership, like a lot of teams now have leadership councils, they'll get together and go talk to him like, hey man, we don't want this to be a distraction. If you're not gonna play the game, just say, hey, I'm gonna practice during the week, but I'm not gonna dress out. So we can alleviate this problem. We can stop this problem before it gets even bigger.
Yeah. But thank you for joining us, buddy. Before we leave, I like your shirt and your hat. What's the F stand for?
The F stand for Faith Before Fame. It's my logo. It used to be my motto when I do motivational speaking, even when I was coaching little kids. But now we're turning into an apparel company. So me, my wife, and my son, my family, we're trying to build it from the ground up. So that's my logo. The halo on it, Faith Before Fame. So hopefully it'll be coming to an internet store near you before Christmas.
Well, let us know, man. We'll help spread the word. I like it. I'm out to get me one of those. That hat might be too big for me. I don't know. I got a tiny bald head, so that hat might be too big, but that shirt will look good on me.
Oh yeah, the shirts will look good, but we'll have the hats in different sizes, so we'll make sure we take it. We're not gonna turn down $1.
All right, but man, thanks for joining us. We'll have you on here in a couple weeks.
Thanks, bud.
My pleasure, man. Y'all enjoy.
All right, bud. Thank you. Welcome back, Suit Up Sports. DJ the Suit Stout along with Mark Yarbro. I want to thank Brentson Buckner for joining us. He's always great, and we'll have him on during the season. He is a legitimate football geek. He loves it, and he's done everything from playing and then like coaching. He coached against the Panthers last year when he was at Jacksonville. So it was interesting to hear his take on what he saw at the game the other night, and that he did notice that we were bigger and more physical on the defensive line. And Corey Thornton stood out to him like he's standing out to everybody right now. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody had a better night than he did, just for his stock. And look, he had been a guy that had been talked about in camp. And he backed that up the other night. So a good start for him. As you said, a position where you're going to need some depth. And, he stepped in, obviously, for JC the other night and played pretty well out there.
We'll be back with you at the end of the week on Friday. Mark, give me a quick few things of what you'll look for in the joint practice against the Texans and then the game Friday night or Saturday after.
Yeah, as you mentioned, defensively, Houston can get after it. We'll see how many of their starters play in that game Saturday, but that'll be a good litmus test this week for this Panther offense, who we saw looked really bad in that first series, came back, played better in that second series against the Browns the other night. And we'll just see if guys who, a guy like a Corey Thornton, can he build off of what he did the other night?
Yeah, it's always interesting to me. Bryce Young and CJ Stroud are always going to be compared to each other.
Yes,
because of the way they were drafted and the fact they're really good friends. Stroud had obviously just a great first year. They regressed a little bit last year. I'm not saying that was all CJ Stroud, but the team in general,
a lot of injuries.
Yeah. But he and Bryce are always going to be compared to each other. So I know Bryce is going to go into it probably with a little more adrenaline flowing, wanting to show what he's got. And you're right. I mean, if the Panthers' first team offense can move the ball against this defense, that bodes well because the Texans have got players everywhere on the defensive side of the ball.
And I know you asked Buck about this, but just watching Bryce out there the other night, he just looks different than what he did to start last year. And you saw that when he came back after being benched. He just looked more assertive, more confident. He looks like he's the leader of this team now out there. And when you couldn't say that the first of last year.
I agree. Well, we'll see how things shake down this week. Game Saturday at 1:00 in Houston. Joint practices, I think, on Wednesday and Thursday of this week. So we'll talk about all that on Friday, and we'll see you then. Have a good week.